There are moments that divide your life into before and after. I didn't know I was standing in one of them the night Jason Miller looked at me like I wasn't just his best friend anymore. At the time, I only knew that my heart was beating too fast and that something between us had shifted in a way I couldn't name. My name is Ethan Parker, and I've been in love with my straight best friend for longer than I care to admit. Jason and I met when we were 16. He was the loud, confident new kid with an easy grin and a talent for making everyone feel included. I was quieter, more careful with my words, already aware that I was different even before I had the courage to say it out loud. Jason chose the desk next to mine in history class, asked to borrow a pen he didn't need, and never really left my side after that. When I came out the following year, I braced myself for distance. I'd rehearsed the conversation in my head, prepared for awkwardness, maybe even rejection. Instead, Jason shrugged and said, "You're still you. That's all I care about." Then he punched my shoulder lightly and asked if I wanted to grab pizza. That was Jason. Direct, loyal, simple in a way that made things feel safe. We built our friendship on late-night drives, shared playlists, and conversations that stretched past midnight. He told me about every crush he had. I told him about mine. There was an unspoken rule between us, solid as concrete. He was straight, and I respected that boundary. No matter what I felt, I never let it show. And I did feel it. Quietly, constantly. It wasn't just that Jason was handsome, though he was. It was the way he listened when I talked, like my words mattered. The way he defended me when someone made a careless joke. The way he'd text me after a bad date and say, "You deserve better than that guy." I dated, of course. I tried to invest in other people. But every time someone held my hand, it felt like I was pretending it was his. I never crossed the line. I never would have. By the time we started college, nothing between us had changed, at least on the surface. We chose the same campus without even discussing it, as if separation wasn't an option. That's where Emily Carter entered the picture. Jason met her in his economics class. She was smart, composed, with a warmth that made people trust her quickly. When he first introduced us, his arm draped casually around her shoulders, I felt something sharp and immediate in my chest. Not anger, not even jealousy, just the quiet realization that I would always stand half a step behind him. Emily treated me kindly, though I sensed her caution. I was the best friend who had history, inside jokes, and a permanent place in Jason's life. She never said she felt threatened, but sometimes her smile tightened when Jason cancelled plans with her to help me study or when he showed up at my apartment after they argued. Their arguments started small, misunderstandings, busy schedules, but Jason began confiding in me more than he did in her. He'd sit on the edge of my bed, running a hand through his hair, and say, "I don't know why this feels so hard." I'd listen, offer balanced advice, and ignore the selfish part of me that liked being the person he turned to first. One night, after another fight with Emily, Jason showed up unannounced. His expression wasn't angry, it was unsettled. He paced my living room, restless in a way I hadn't seen before. "Do you ever feel like you're not where you're supposed to be?" he asked. The question wasn't really about Emily. I could tell by the way he avoided my eyes. I chose my words carefully. Sometimes, it doesn't always mean something's wrong. It just means you're confused. Jason stopped pacing. For a moment, he just looked at me. Not past me, not through me, at me. His gaze lingered in a way that made the air feel heavier. "You get me," he said quietly. More than anyone, the compliment should have felt harmless. Instead, it settled into my chest like a warning. I told myself it was nothing. That he was just stressed. That loyalty meant keeping my feelings buried where they belonged. But when Jason finally sat beside me on the couch, closer than necessary, our shoulders touching, neither of us moved away. That was the first time I wondered if the rules between us were starting to blur. And I didn't know yet how dangerous that could be. After that night on the couch, Jason Miller started finding reasons to be at my apartment. At first, it made sense. He and Emily Carter were arguing more often, their disagreements no longer about schedules but about effort, priorities, and emotional distance. Jason claimed Emily was becoming too intense, while Emily accused him of pulling away. I listened to both sides, though I only ever heard one of them directly. Jason trusted me with the parts of himself he didn't show her. He began staying over after their fights. He'd toss his keys on my kitchen counter and collapse onto my bed like it was his, exhaling as if my apartment were the only place he could breathe. I told myself I was just being supportive, that this was what best friends did. But something in his energy had shifted. Jason had always been physically comfortable, an arm around my shoulders, playful shoves, leaning against me during movies. Now there was hesitation in it. Awareness. His touches lingered half a second longer than they used to. His eyes held mine as if he were searching for something. One evening, rain tapping against the windows, Jason sat cross-legged on my floor while I worked on an assignment. He'd been quiet for almost an hour, which wasn't like him. "Ethan," he said finally. I looked up. His expression wasn't frustrated or angry. It was uncertain. "Can I ask you something without you overthinking it?" "That depends," I replied lightly, though my pulse had already quickened. Jason ran a hand through his hair. "Did you always know that you were gay?" The question startled me, not because it was offensive, but because it felt loaded. "No," I answered honestly. "I figured it out over time." "Why?" He shrugged, but the motion was forced. "I don't know. I've just been thinking about," I prompted. Jason hesitated. That hesitation said more than any confession could have. "About how you know what you feel is real," he said. "How do you know it's not just comfort or habit?" I closed my laptop slowly, giving him my full attention. "Are we talking about Emily?" He didn't respond immediately, which was answer enough. "I care about her," Jason said. "She's amazing. But sometimes when I'm with her, it feels like I'm playing a role. Like I'm supposed to feel more than I do." "That doesn't automatically mean you don't love her," I said carefully. "I know." His voice dropped. "But when I'm here, with you, it's different." The air in the room shifted, dense and fragile. Jason held my gaze, unflinching. "I feel calm, like I don't have to prove anything." "You've never had to prove anything to me," I said quietly. "That's the point." Silence stretched between us, heavy with things neither of us had dared to articulate before. I could hear the rain, my own breathing, the faint hum of the refrigerator. Every sound felt amplified. Jason stood and moved to sit beside me on the bed. Not too close, but close enough that I felt the warmth of him. "Have you ever thought about us?" he asked. The words landed like a dropped glass, sharp, impossible to ignore. I searched his face for humor, for irony, for anything that would turn this into a joke. There was none. "Jason," I began, but my voice faltered. "Just answer," he insisted softly. "Honestly." "Yes," I admitted. There was no point lying now. But it didn't matter what I thought. "You're straight." Jason inhaled slowly. "What if I'm not as straight as I thought?" My heart slammed against my ribs. "That's not something you experiment with when you have a girlfriend," I said, though the steadiness in my tone cost me effort. "I'm not saying I want to hurt Emily." His jaw tightened. I need to understand what this is." "What is what?" "This." He gestured vaguely between us. "Whatever this feeling is when I look at you." My throat felt dry. "And what do you think it is?" Jason's eyes darkened, vulnerable in a way I had never seen before. "I don't know," he admitted. "That's why I'm asking you." He shifted closer, close enough that our knees brushed. The contact sent a current through me that I couldn't disguise. "If I ever wanted to try something," Jason said carefully, "would you hate me?" The question wasn't hypothetical. It trembled with real possibility. I should have told him to go home. I should have reminded him of Emily, of loyalty, of consequences. Instead, I found myself caught between desire and responsibility, both pulling at me with equal force. "What are you really asking me, Jason?" I whispered. He held my gaze, unwavering now. "Tell me," he said, voice barely above a breath, "what you'd do if I wasn't straight." And in that suspended moment, balanced between confession and catastrophe, I realized that whatever answer I gave would change everything. Jason Miller's question lingered between us like a live wire. "Tell me what you'd do if I wasn't straight." Every instinct I had told me to protect him from the answer. Protect Emily Carter. Protect myself. But Jason wasn't looking at me like someone chasing curiosity. He looked like someone standing at the edge of something terrifying, waiting to see if I would step with him. "If you weren't straight," I said slowly, forcing each word to stay steady, "I'd tell you the truth. And that is," his voice was low, unguarded, "that I've cared about you for a long time. More than I should have." The admission felt both freeing and reckless. Jason didn't flinch. He didn't look shocked. If anything, he looked relieved. I thought so, he whispered. Before I could process what that meant, his hand moved, hesitant at first, brushing mine. Not accidental, intentional. The contact was light, but it carried years of suppressed feeling beneath it. This doesn't make me a different person, Jason said, as if convincing himself. It just means I'm trying to understand. Understanding doesn't erase consequences, I replied. His jaw tightened, but he didn't pull away. I know. Silence settled again, but it was no longer uncertain. It was charged. Jason closed the space between us first. The kiss wasn't forceful or frantic. It was cautious, testing. As if we both needed confirmation that this was real. The moment our lips met, the world narrowed to breath and heartbeat. Years of restraint dissolved in a single, fragile instant. And then Jason pulled back. His expression shifted immediately, from clarity to panic. "Emily," he muttered, dragging a hand over his face. "I have a girlfriend." The words felt like a cold splash of reality. "Yes," I said quietly. Jason stood abruptly, pacing the small width of my apartment. "I didn't plan this. I swear I didn't." "I know you didn't," I replied, though the reassurance felt hollow. He stopped pacing and looked at me again, conflict written across every feature. "But I can't pretend I didn't feel that." "Neither could I. That's the problem," I said. Jason exhaled sharply. "This doesn't have to mean I'm a terrible person." "No," I agreed, "but it does mean you have to make a choice." He didn't answer that. Instead, he stepped closer again, as if proximity might simplify something that was anything but simple. "I've never felt that kind of certainty with anyone," he admitted. "Not even Emily." The confession should have thrilled me. Instead, it made my stomach twist. "Jason," I said carefully, "you can't compare a relationship you've built over years to something that just crossed a line 5 minutes ago." He searched my face as if hoping I'd contradict myself. The next week blurred into quiet chaos. Jason texted constantly. Small messages at first. "Are you okay? I can't stop thinking about it. About you." Each message tightened the knot in my chest. I tried to respond cautiously, reminding him that Emily existed, that confusion didn't justify betrayal. But caution didn't erase what had already happened. Jason started canceling plans with Emily. He'd show up at my place claiming they needed space. He talked about honesty, about self-discovery, but he still went back to her apartment at night. Still answered her calls with forced normalcy. One evening, Emily surprised me. She showed up at my door alone. Her expression wasn't angry, it was worried. "Is Jason okay?" she asked. The question struck harder than any accusation could have. "He's stressed," I said carefully. Emily studied my face, searching for something. "He's been distant, and when I ask him what's wrong, he says he's figuring things out. With you." The implication hung in the air. "There's nothing going on," I said. The lie came too easily. Emily nodded slowly, though I could tell she didn't fully believe me. "You're his best friend. If something's changing, I just wish he'd tell me." After she left, the guilt settled deep and heavy. I wasn't just Jason's secret. I was now part of his deception. That night, Jason came over again. "She thinks something's off," he admitted, running a hand through his hair. "She's not wrong," I replied. Jason stepped closer, eyes intense. "I don't want to lose you. You might lose both of us if you're not honest," I said. He swallowed hard. "I can't imagine my life without you." "That doesn't answer what you're going to do about her." Jason hesitated, and in that hesitation, I saw the truth. He wanted certainty without sacrifice. Then he said the words that shifted the ground beneath me. "I think I'm in love with you, Ethan." The confession should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt fragile, built on secrecy and unresolved ties. I looked at him and understood something painful and clear. Love born in betrayal doesn't feel like triumph. It feels like standing on glass, unsure which step will finally make it shatter. And I knew we were running out of time before it did. The truth surfaced the way it always does, quietly, then all at once. Jason Miller didn't confess to Emily Carter. He hesitated too long, tried to manage the timing, tried to soften the impact. In the end, it was a notification on his phone that betrayed him. A message from me, simple and reckless: "We need to talk about last night." Emily saw it. Jason told me later that she didn't scream at first. She just stared at the screen, then at him, as if rearranging her understanding of the last 2 years in real time. "Is it her?" she asked. Jason didn't lie. No, he said, it's Ethan. That was the moment everything fractured. I wasn't there for the initial confrontation, but I saw the aftermath. Emily showed up at my apartment the next day, her composure stripped down to something raw and exhausted. Was any of it real? She asked me. The question wasn't dramatic. It was devastated. Yes, I said honestly. He cares about you, but he kissed you. There was no defense for that. Emily's eyes searched mine, not for denial, but for clarity. Did you love him? The truth felt unavoidable now. Yes, she nodded slowly, absorbing it. I always felt like there was something between you two. I just didn't think I was competing with something he didn't understand yet. Neither had I. I'm sorry, I said, knowing it was insufficient. Emily exhaled, steadying herself. You're not the only one who hurt me. But you knew. She wasn't cruel. That almost made it worse. After she left, the silence in my apartment felt different, less charged, more exposed. Jason arrived an hour later, eyes red, shoulders slumped. She's gone, he said simply. The weight of it settled between us. Did you tell her everything? I asked. Enough. Jason sank onto the couch, staring at the floor. For the first time since this began, he didn't look torn. He looked hollow. I didn't mean to hurt her, he said. I didn't mean for any of this to spiral. But it did, I replied gently. Jason nodded. I told her I've been confused for a while. That I've felt something for you I couldn't ignore. And how did she take that? He let out a humorless breath. About as well as you'd expect. We sat in silence, the consequences finally real and undeniable. Jason looked up at me, vulnerability replacing the confidence I'd always known in him. I meant what I said. I think I'm in love with you. This time, the words didn't feel like glass beneath my feet. They felt like responsibility. Jason, I said carefully, are you in love with me? Or are you in love with what I represent right now? His brow furrowed. What does that mean? You've lost something stable, something familiar, and I'm here. I'm safe. I've always been safe. That's not fair. It's honest. Jason stood, frustration flickering across his face. Why are you making this harder? Because it is hard, I said. And if we pretend it isn't, we'll just break something else. He fell quiet again, processing. You don't want this? He asked finally. I held his gaze. I don't want to be someone's discovery. I don't want to be the person you figure yourself out on while someone else pays the price. Jason's expression shifted from defensiveness to understanding. Slow, painful. I never wanted to use you, he said. I know, but intention doesn't erase impact. For the first time since that night on the couch, the space between us felt intentional. Necessary. What happens now? He asked. You take time, I answered. You figure out who you are without leaning on me as the answer. And us. I swallowed. If there's an us, it has to be built on honesty. Not overlap. Not betrayal. Jason nodded, though it was clear he didn't like it. He stepped closer, not to kiss me this time, but to rest his forehead briefly against mine, a quiet acknowledgement of everything that had shifted. That question I asked you, he said softly, it changed everything. Yes, I agreed. It did. Jason left shortly after, not with anger, but with something heavier, self-awareness. Alone again, I realized something important. Loving someone doesn't mean accepting half-truths or borrowed courage. It means demanding clarity, even if it costs you. Jason had asked what I would do if he wasn't straight. Now he had to decide who he was without me answering for him. And for the first time since all of this began, I understood that the real story wasn't about the kiss. It was about what we were willing to become after it.